knows if you live or die? Let's fucking go.
Famously known as Professor Xavier's sister, Cassandra Nova has earned quite a reputation as one of the X-Men's most formidable enemies. She originated as an anti-self or a mimicry in the astral plane, and she was the pure embodiment of evil energy even in the womb. When her twin Charles detected her presence, he was forced to kill her and trigger a miscarriage. However, Cassandra managed to survive and grow a body out of a mass of cells, and she eventually grew super powerful. Without further ado, let us look at 10 of her most insane hidden powers and explore them in detail. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Exploring Cassandra Nova's origins. There are a lot of questions about Cassandra's origins, so why don't we start right from the beginning? As we mentioned when Professor Xavier was in Sharon Xavier's womb, his wondrous genetic potential enabled his mimicry to take a physical form. This led to the creation of his twin, who possessed the mimicry or anti-self of his genetic makeup. While Professor Xavier fought for the good of mutant kind, Cassandra had an evil presence within her. Xavier decided to kill her and trigger a miscarriage with help from his nascent psychic abilities. While she was declared to be stillborn, Cassandra fought against all odds, and her hatred for her brother fueled her survival instinct as she grew a body out of a mass of cells. She spent the next few years building herself a body and biding her time until she was strong enough to exact revenge. Her first deadly attack was nothing less of a genocide, as she took control of a wild master mold in the forests of South Africa and took some help from Sentinels to unleash a massacre on Genosha. She soon went after the X-Men, and while she was almost killed in this confrontation, she proved to be a resilient being who kept bouncing back stronger than ever. Cassandra often faced Jean Grey and the other X-Men, who even looped in the Avengers to bring her down. Psionic Blasts. Cassandra was famously known for her ability to release her astral form and use it to perform a range of underrated tasks. One of these included firing psionic blasts that could be projected mentally without having any evident physical effects. However, these effects deeply impacted her victims' minds and left them in immense pain. Sometimes, these psionic blasts were so intense that the victims passed out or turned brain dead. Psychic Mimicry. Cassandra is also an accomplished user of psychic forces and has perfected the ability to mimic others' psychic signatures. This ability allows her to use others' powers and give her supreme status, as she can pretty much wield any power that she desires. Genetic Manipulation. One of Cassandra's most useful abilities revolves around manipulating others' genetic codes, allowing her to trigger mutations or even transform mutants into their human form. To begin with, she could copy the DNA of sentient beings to give them a physical body and also access the latent mutant abilities in one's genome and bring them to the front. She could essentially break one's DNA down to a molecular level and selectively evolve their genetic traits or tap into the latent ones. By manipulating genes, she once managed to duplicate the Trask DNA to include herself as part of the Sentinel's Prime Command protocols. Astral Projection. Cassandra deserves a lot of credit for her astral projection abilities, which allows her to perform a wide range of functions. On a simple level, she could release her astral form to read others' minds and project her thoughts into their minds to exert control over them. As things get more complex, Cassandra has managed to alter others' minds against their wills, create telepathic illusions, and even induce mental paralysis or amnesia. However, she mostly uses this ability to project her astral form from her body to travel long distances that would be impossible to cover in her physical body. She could also conjure up psionic objects and manipulate aspects of her environment that can otherwise not be controlled in the physical plane. Mind Control. While the previous ability shed some light on her mind-controlling powers, let us look at them in detail as they deserve greater appreciation. Besides simple manipulation and telepathy, she could control others' minds by merely focusing on them. She could then get her victims to follow her orders against their will and transfer her mind and abilities to them in order to protect her spirit in case her physical body was destroyed. She could also erase her target's memories or plant false memories or illusions that would convince them that they experienced things that did not really take place. Psychic Constructs. In addition to astral projection and mind control, Cassandra could channel her psychic energy to conjure solid constructs such as indestructible barriers, shields, or even weapons to protect herself from any incoming attacks. Telekinetic Mastery. While most beings in the X-Men universe boast about their telekinetic abilities, their powers are restricted to levitating objects in most cases. However, Cassandra's telekinetic skills were on a whole other level, and she was capable of not just levitating, but also manipulating living beings and objects. She would use this ability to lift heavy objects or even dismantle the structure of complex machinery, along with exerting force on a molecular level. Cassandra's mastery over this ability also enabled her to conjure telekinetic shields to defend herself and fire destructive force blasts by focusing her mental energy on a particular target. Immortality. While Cassandra was not bestowed with immortality by any higher powers, she used her psychic abilities to conquer death. She could transfer her consciousness and powers into the bodies of other hosts, which allowed her to continue living in spirit even if her physical body was killed. She only resorted to this in extreme conditions, as she had supreme regenerative abilities that helped her heal from most injuries in no time. She had displayed the ability to heal severed limbs, vital organs, and large chunks of flesh, and Cassandra's immortality also stemmed from the fact that she could heal from fatal attacks in the blink of an eye. Mental Disintegration. Cassandra's mind control powers sometimes took extreme forms, such as using her psychic abilities to disintegrate her opponent's minds and wipe out their essence, leaving behind a blank slate. Adaptive Evolution. Right from birth, Cassandra has fought against all odds and evolved into a being capable of dealing with any threat. While she evolved into a physical being from a mass of miscarried cells, she retained this ability throughout her life. She was capable of adaptive evolution to counter any psychic or physical threats, and her unpredictable nature kept her opponents on their toes at all times. How powerful is she compared to Charles Xavier? Since Cassandra was essentially a copy of Charles's DNA, they possessed some comparable powers such as telepathy, telekinesis, and so on. However, Cassandra managed to access an entire range of latent mutant abilities in Charles's genome, which granted her powers that Charles himself may not have developed throughout his life. Both these siblings wielded immense power, but Cassandra posed a bigger threat as she was quite literally the physical manifestation of Xavier's dark, opposite spirit. Charles may have the wit and wisdom to deal with crises and attacks, but Cassandra was somehow always one step ahead of him. She thwarted the X-Men's entire plan of remaining anonymous by switching minds with Xavier and then declaring him to be a mutant on national television, and she certainly managed to do considerable damage to the X-Men. She also had the strength to launch destructive attacks that Xavier would have never even considered, and she once single-handedly killed about 16 million mutants like it was no big deal. Xavier has often been vulnerable to her attacks, as she once got in his head and manipulated the X-Men into attacking each other and instilling a lot of hatred for the mutants in the minds of world leaders. While Charles Xavier might be one of the most legendary beings in the history of the X-Men, Cassandra was more than his match, and she has truly proved her worth as one of the X-Men's most dangerous adversaries. Marvelous verdict. To wrap things up, Cassandra certainly has an impressive range of powers and abilities. Despite being killed in the womb, Cassandra fought against all odds to become a huge threat to the X-Men, and we want to know what you think of her powers in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.